The more afraid I felt, the more intense the pain was. The more tired I became, the more confused and overwhelmed I was, and the more hopeless I felt. The fear amplified everything that was going wrong. But when I was buoyed up by loved ones, an inspiring project, or my faith, something miraculous happened. The pain would ease. My energy would increase. I could think clearly, and I felt more hope. Welcome to the Serve, Love, Lift podcast. I'm Tiffany Garvin. Years ago on a quiet beach in Hawaii, I felt the weight of the pain and struggles we all face in this world and how much we need each other. Soon after, this movement was born to serve, love, and lift. I believe that we are meant to serve the world with our unique gifts, love ourselves and others, and lift each other up to live with joy. This podcast is here to help you heal your heart and your life and empower you on your path to becoming the best version of yourself. I invite you to listen carefully and jot down notes that come to mind, whether they come from me or from your own heart. Then, share this episode with 3 people who you feel could use it today. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get going. This season, we're taking back our lives. We're reclaiming them from our past traumas and the monster of PTSD. Whether your post-traumatic stress shows up as physical, mental, or emotional symptoms, we're breaking down the barriers to healing, mastering our post-trauma self-care, and beginning to create lives we love. In today's episode, we're tackling one of the main thieves of our peace and living fully: fear. It can prevent us from feeling hope, making plans, and ultimately healing. Fear is not only a symptom of PTS, but it can also make it worse. It actually amplifies our post-traumatic stress episodes. So, calming fear is the first secret to subduing the PTSD monster. Side note, I'll usually refer to symptoms related to trauma as PTS and not PTSD in an effort to include all of us, whether we've been officially diagnosed or not. I believe there are millions of us struggling under the weight of post-traumatic stress, or PTS, and may never be diagnosed. But the common and significant impacts our traumas have on our lives are what we will continue to tackle and work to heal. Since fear can be both a symptom of PTS and an intensifier of its episodes, we'll talk about how to manage each of them. Let's start by focusing on preventing fear from amplifying our post-traumatic stress. There are at least 2 categories of fear that can agitate our PTS episodes. First, fear of the unknown. Second, fear around the known. First, often what scares us most is the unknown. If we can't see our issue clearly or don't understand it, its intensity can be amplified. When I was sick with my chronic illnesses, it was frightening because I didn't understand what was going on. Why was I in so much pain without a clear cause? Why was I so bone tired when there was no apparent reason for it? Why could I not focus my thoughts for more than a few seconds before feeling confused or overwhelmed? Was I dying? This would really scare me at times. Worst of all, my doctors couldn't explain it either. Early on, they told me it was all in my head, or that it was just stress. What? Now it's my fault? The more afraid I felt, the more intense the pain was. the more tired I became, the more confused and overwhelmed I was, and the more hopeless I felt. The fear amplified everything that was going wrong. But when I was buoyed up by loved ones, an inspiring project, or my faith, something miraculous happened. The pain would ease. My energy would increase. I could think clearly, and I felt more hope. It was amazing. Fear is so powerful. When we get triggered, it can be frightening, especially if we don't understand what's happening. Even before we get triggered, we can be afraid of when it's going to hit us next. How will it debilitate us, and for how long? Will we be driving? Will we be at the grocery store? Will we be at the park with our little ones? And what mess will be left when it's done? All these fears build up tension. And you know when someone's in a car accident and they don't see it coming? Their body is relaxed and their injuries can be mild. But when they see it coming and tense up, their injuries can tend to be much worse. It's the same principle. Fear of the unknown can dramatically increase the intensity of our PTS episode. However, when we can look at it and begin to understand what's actually happening, our fears begin to calm and we can face it more steadily. So, let's demystify post-traumatic stress and learn how to manage it better. The first key to subduing the PTSD monster is that we can calm the fear of the unknown. While we can't always predict when a post-traumatic stress episode will hit us and how, we can mitigate it in a couple of ways. One we'll get to a bit later. The other is understanding what's actually happening during the episode. When I was sick, I had no idea why my body was acting the way it was, all the symptoms and craziness. Now I do. Are you ready for this? PTS is an alert from our subconscious warning us of a perceived threat. I'll say that again. Post-traumatic stress is an alert from our subconscious warning us of a perceived threat. It uses a variety of channels for this communication to alert us of the perceived threat. It'll use physical discomfort, fatigue, sweating, shortness of breath, and even intense pain to get our attention. It will also use nightmares, flashbacks, and panic attacks to alert us to danger. Let's take a minute to acknowledge that not all PTS is loud. Sometimes our post-traumatic stress is not outwardly expressive or intense. What if it's subtle, paralyzing, or suffocating? PTS can suck the life out of people, causing them to shut down their feelings and go numb and disconnect from really living. We can live in fear of freezing up at any moment, like when we're talking to someone new or giving a presentation at work. We can find ourselves crying for no apparent reason and wondering if people around us think we're crazy or weak. We can continue on with a myriad of post-traumatic stress symptoms, but we know that they are significantly disruptive to living. Let's understand a bit more about the subconscious before we move on. If it's just using PTS to alert us to a perceived danger, how does it know what's a threat? It learns from our traumatic experiences. A client I worked with who had some food allergies had a remarkable realization during a session. He remembered that when he was a child, his grandmother got upset with him for tracking mud into her house when he came in for dinner. As she expressed her displeasure, his stress response kicked in, and his subconscious began quickly cataloging things in his environment that could even remotely be contributing to his distress. It noticed, among other things, the corn and green beans on his plate. These two potential culprits were then programmed in as threats to his safety and eventually developed into allergies. Yes, in case you're wondering, this is often how allergies are created, through traumatic experiences. Colors, nature, dairy, smells, animals, and anything else you can think of usually become allergens because they were somehow involved in a trauma. After identifying the root cause of my client's food allergies, we were able to effectively heal them, and now he no longer struggles with food. So now that we know better what's actually happening during a post-traumatic stress episode, we can calm our fear of the unknown around the PTSD monster. Our body is not trying to kill us, as much as it feels like it is sometimes. Our subconscious is just trying to keep us safe from threats, even perceived threats. It simply doesn't know the difference. The second key to subduing the PTSD monster is that we can calm the fear of the known. I'm sure we can all think back on an experience when we were triggered and it went poorly. This can cause us to fear a repeat of that awful situation. It doesn't have to be a huge event. It can simply be an experience that compounded our trauma because of new additions of embarrassment, powerlessness, overwhelm, or worthlessness. Again, our subconscious takes that experience and catalogs everything that could have contributed to the traumatic experience. Oh, look, it was my actions. I overreacted to what someone said and got blasted for it. Or, I froze in my presentation at work and ruined my chances at the promotion. Isn't that just lovely? I am the cause of my trauma. Consider that one for a moment. Fear can feel so justified when it feels like we can't do anything right, and our PTS will eventually ruin our lives. This can initiate a downward spiral if we don't change something. This actually leads us to the third key to subduing the PTSD monster. If you listen to season 1 of the Serve Love Lift podcast, you know where I'm going with this. We can calm the fear with a simple technique and even begin healing the core wounds. You may have already heard about neuroplasticity, epigenetics, and other scientific discoveries about resolving wounds that were once thought impossible to heal. It's real and beautiful. Using my simple life above the line techniques that relate to these scientific principles, I was able to heal from 18 years of chronic illnesses. My students have helped themselves heal from anxiety, allergies, self-worth issues, and many other symptoms of trauma, including debilitating fear. Let's walk through one of my techniques today to help you begin managing your fears and resolving the underlying traumas. First, think of one specific fear you're struggling with. Probably the one that's been bugging you throughout this episode. Let's not bring it up and in. Hold it out at arm's length to deal with it from afar. You can see and acknowledge it plenty well from there and keep yourself safe. Is it fear of pain, loss, the chaos of the world, or of your next PTS episode? Whatever it is, write it down. Now, rate how intense it is. If you can't feel it right now, or it feels mild because you're holding it away, that's just fine. We can still work with it. If it flares up a bit while we're focusing on it, just keep breathing and keep going. you're safe. If you can tell it's really strong, write that down too. Next, we're going to have a little intentional chat with your subconscious. Don't worry, it's listening. With your fear in mind, I invite you to think the word restore and take a deep breath. You're reprogramming your subconscious paradigms to accept that they no longer need to perceive this fear as a threat. Think restore again and breathe. Trust me, it wants to feel better too. You're doing great. Think restore one more time and take another deep breath. That's it. Let the intensity calm and feel peace working its way in. Okay, check in and see where things are. Look at that fear and let it inform you how it's doing. If it came down a bit, great. We'll keep going in a minute. If it changed to something else, perfect. We'll work on it. If it flared up, don't worry. It just woke up and we'll help it out. Let's go again. Ready? With fear in mind, think restore and breathe. Shake it out if it needs movement too. Restore again and breathe. You may need to lean in and show it you mean business. Restore one more time and take a nice deep breath. You've got this. Let it all come out. If you need to cry, let yourself cry. If you need to go punch a pillow, do it. If you need to go for a run, go. Follow whatever your body needs to do now to help the fear leave completely. If it's a more hefty one, you may need to continue this technique until it calms down. Do it again later. Do it again tomorrow. Teach it to someone who needs it, so it becomes an easy tool in your toolbox. Use it anytime, anywhere, to resolve other fears or specific wounds from your trauma. You can overcome your fears. You can heal from your trauma. To review, the 3 keys to subduing the PTSD monster are: number 1, we can calm fear of the unknown. Number 2, we can calm fear around the known. Number 3, we can calm trauma-related fear with the restore technique and even begin healing the core wounds. How we respond to our post-traumatic stress and other struggles can make a significant difference in our lives. Reacting to life's challenges and PTS with fear and frustration can amplify them or drag them out to where we're miserable for longer than necessary. As we begin responding to them by calming our fears and understanding that they're simply messages from our subconscious inviting us to heal, we can get through them more smoothly and ultimately more quickly. The trauma healing journey is not for the faint of heart, but as we work together to improve our post-trauma self-care with understanding and techniques to resolve our wounds, we can succeed and find peace, hope, and even joy. Thank you for being with me. Remember to share this episode with 3 people who you feel could use it today. Don't want to wait for next week for new insights and wisdom? Go to www.tiffanygarvin.com/emotional healing for a free guide to help you begin healing the emotional wounds that are holding you back. Again, the link is tiffanygarvin.com/emotional healing. It will be in the show notes as well. I believe in you. See you next week.